Hello, dear all. Welcome to English Without Borders Thursday webinars. And we are very happy to see all of our followers joining us through Zoom platform as well as Facebook platform. And today we are very happy to host Feruz Akbarov, who was our recent English Without Borders conference speaker and panelist. And today, Feruz Akbarov will talk about what makes an ordinary teacher extraordinary. So hello, Feruz. Welcome to English Without Borders. So happy to see you.
Hello, okay.
Yeah, and let me just give a brief introduction of our speaker. So Feruz Akbarov is a native of Uzbekistan who did his Bachelor of Arts in English Philology from Samarkand State University of Foreign Languages. He furthered his studies by winning a state-funded scholarship for pursuing a 2-year master's course at the University of Pune, India. Moreover, he has been a winner of multiple awards, both domestically and internationally. One of the most remarkable achievements was in China when he was awarded the Best TESOL Teacher Award of the Year in 2014. And he was recently awarded Universal Leadership Award for Outstanding Global Educators by Global Education. Feruz Akbarov is philanthropist by nature, so he has committed himself to volunteering and public engagement, both at home and abroad, physically and remotely. There are several projects to his name, such as TED Master Virtual Speaking Club, a 20-minute talk with the founder, a Zoom workshop for ESL teachers, and others. He has become an international ESL/EFL instructor due to his extensive teachings abroad and his international teacher qualifications. He is one of the fewest English teachers from Uzbekistan with an international C2 level. So with big pleasure, I'm giving the floor to our speaker. Over to you, Feruz. Thank you so much. And dear audience, please use this chance to ask questions to our speaker after his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a pleasing introduction of mine. Good evening to the Central Asian viewers and warm greetings to all the viewers from around the world who have joined us today, either on Facebook or Zoom. I'm very pleased to be meeting you virtually. And today I'm going to engage you in the next 40 or 50 minutes or so on the topic of what makes an ordinary teacher extraordinary. By the way, I'm sure an aspiring teachers like you must be quite curious about the tips and hacks of becoming really an extraordinary one. And today, I hope my expertise and practical tips are going to come in handy for you and for the rest of your teaching career. So with that being said, I'm going to share my presentation with you. Let me know if it's visible. Is it visible?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, nice, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Feruz Akbarov, and this is a topic, and thank you very much for a kind invitation to English Without Borders Network. And here is a brief outline of what we are going to do together, because it's going to be super engaging. I want and I need your engagement and interaction with me. So first we'll kick off with an interactive task. I prepared something interesting for you, followed by 7 practical principles of how to become an extraordinary teacher. And I prepared a short quiz for you, followed by another interactive task. And then I'll wrap up my presentation with a Q&A where you will be able to address your most concerned questions. I hope that is clear. That's like a roadmap for today's presentation. And now let's start the show. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're able to see the question, black and white, so please put it in the chat box. Where in the world would you love to teach? You can put a city or a country. Let's say US is a country and New York is a city. So you might be an aspiring teacher who would like to be extraordinary one and in a national one. So where in the world would you like to teach? Please put it in the chat box. And you can put it either on the Facebook chat box or Zoom. I'm able to follow both of them. So yeah. Okay. Right. Feruz Akbarov says at home. Wow, what a funny answer. In Egypt, okay. Mabluda says UK. Nasiba Mirpochoeva says in France, okay. Some sunny island comes from English Without Borders, PR. Okay. So do we have any responses on Facebook? Are you able to follow the Facebook chat box?
Yes, Zuhro is tracking, and yeah, she will be posting here all the Facebook responses.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't ask the question in vain because, you know, this is part of the presentation. If you want to become an extraordinary one, you have to really get out of your comfort zone and accept new challenges of teaching abroad and truly becoming an international teacher. So that being said, let's move on. And here is, you know, a quick background information about me and my humble TESOL cabinet. I believe if you are an aspiring teacher, you must have your own, let's say, proud record of your achievements, something you achieved in terms of TESOL. Here are some of my, let's say, accomplishments from Cambridge University, Arizona State University, UK, Ireland, and etc. And this is my International TESOL Mastery C2. As of January 2021, across 4 sections, I scored C2 by Language Cert UK. All right, Heidi Klum says, let's start the show. A quick clarification, you know, before approaching any kind of presentation, a webinar, seminar, conference, or a class of mine, I always have this approach at the back of my mind. Am I just going to take it as it is? Or is it going to be fun-packed, entertaining, dynamic, enthusiastic? So this is the question I ask myself. Regardless of a presentation, a class, it doesn't matter. You should ask yourself, because the mentality, the mindset, the approach will define the outcome. So this is going to be a show, not just a random webinar. And with that hope in mind, let's start out today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, on top of my list of 7 practical principles of becoming an extraordinary teacher, I put international exposure. And I'll explain, I'll walk you through in the coming slides. Here are some of the snippets from my teaching endeavors worldwide. You can see some pictures from Samarkand, my hometown, from Nanchang, China, Tashkent, Krakow, Poland, Warsaw, Tajikistan, where I was for an English picnic in 2019. So let me ask you a yes/no question. I want you to put it in the chat box. Do you expose yourself to new challenges? Yes or no? Please kindly put it in the chat box, yes or no. And I'll try to track your responses both on Facebook and Zoom. So as a teacher, do you expose yourself to new challenges? Yes or no? Okay, right. So yes. Okay. Maluda says yes, yes, right. Okay. Cool. Yeah, Monavar Zaripova says yes. I believe that's the answer to my question on Facebook. And luckily, I'm able to track both platforms, Facebook and Zoom. Okay, so fair enough. If you are not afraid of facing challenges, then this is exactly for you. Now, let's carry on the theme of exposure. There are multiple ways of exposing yourself as an international, aspiring, extraordinary teacher. You can expose yourself to events, social gatherings, competitions, seminars and webinars. Webinar, by the way, this is how you are exposing yourself to an international event, an international ELT event, to develop yourself professionally. Conferences, like last month, there was a conference in Tajikistan by English Without Borders. Working groups, you can set up working groups among your colleagues or remotely. You could, strike up conversation with someone in Brazil, the US, Canada, Nigeria, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and remotely, virtually, you can set up a working group. You can meet weekly, monthly via Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, and some other platforms to, discuss teaching related issues and find out some solutions. These are different ways of exposure. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some other practical ways of exposure. Let me share with you. Vlogging, which is what I love, and I delivered an entire session on vlogging during the English Without Borders conference in Tajikistan. Vlogging is when you make a video. It could be a mobile video, it could be a professional video, and you share it across YouTube and not just YouTube, across different social media. And this is how you can interact with the global ELT community through your videos. People would comment, people would react, people would like to, find your whereabouts and really collaborate with you just because they find something in common. They find, ways to improve professionally through your teachings. Another way is exposing yourself to global ELT community through online and offline events, and which is what you are doing now exactly. You're exposing yourself to global ELT community like eWiba Network, collaborating internationally, but not only locally. I'll try to make a brief pause here at this juncture, and I'll make a statement. I want that statement to resonate with you. Ladies and gentlemen, language teachers are global teachers, so they cannot be local. Imagine you are teaching at the remote corners of Tajikistan or somewhere in Brazil, but still you are teaching the world language, the international language, which is English. And hence, you should consider yourself a part of global community as a global citizen and make your contribution to, raise a better awareness among your students, that your students are going to fill in your footsteps and become a global citizen. Teaching English is not just teaching a language, but you are actually cultivating global citizens in your students, the identity of global students. And that's why when I say you have to collaborate internationally, but not only locally, you have to sleep out of your comfort zone, regionally, locally, nationally, and expose yourself internationally. That's when you can bring the best out of you as an international professional. Teaching online and offline classes to foreign students. I wonder if you ever tried this in your teaching career, but during the lockdown, I taught lots of online classes. And I also taught some international students. That's my student, Asel Nurbekova from Kazakhstan. She's from Almaty. And we had a fantastic class via Zoom. You could just, you couldn't wish for more of having a great class virtually, which is very much possible and practical. Lots of teachers might find it challenging and even complain about the virtual issues, virtual technical glitches that might crop up down the line. But, if there is a will, there is a way. So you could really try this if you really aspire to become an international teacher. And another way is you expose yourself constantly to lots of events virtually, that are going around monthly, weekly, daily. And I remember at the start of 2021 in January, I collected 35 certificates in just 1 month. There are 31 days, but I collected 35 certificates, which is a whopping number. I'm not here to be proud of the number of the certificates, but what I'm really proud of is the insight that I was able to gain from all those webinars and online virtual events that I was part of. So ladies and gentlemen, if you apply all those tricks and hacks and tips that you learned from those virtual events straight to your classes, you don't really need more CPD. That's how you can grow professionally. And you can also, be part of professional groups, networks, associations. I am a professional member of a couple of international organizations like Institute of Global Professionals from Bangladesh, Africa ELTA. This is like a continental TESOL organization from Africa, so which is completely free of charge. And I'm sure you can also be part of English Without Borders, which is also free of charge. So please put it in the chat box if you are currently part of any global association, organization, or network. This is one of the effective ways of exposing yourself professionally. And let me track your responses both on Facebook and Zoom. Are you the member? Are you the professional member of any network, association, group? It could be ELT. It could be, other than ELT. It doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that you are part of any society, any professional society. Yes, a board of member of ASPBAENACTE. Nile to Seoul. Perfect. Okay. Yes, Fernando, certificate is just a piece of paper. That's what I said. I learned more takeaways. I am not proud of those certificates. I showed for clarification because lots of teachers are under wrong impression that they need certificate. They participate in lots of events for the sake of certificate, but that's not true. The events should be attended for the sake of professional development. USNT, NELTA, right? Okay. Cool. Thank you. Right. NELTA. Yeah. Okay. So keep being part of international networks, and this is going to work well for you for sure. Now let's carry on the theme of international exposure. Why am I talking about international exposure? Because the English teaching jobs, especially for non-native English speakers, are not well paid, or it's even underpaid in some cases. But the situation can be reversed and turned around. How? You could expose yourself professionally and internationally. This is what I did exactly. I was one of those ordinary, mediocre teacher who didn't know anything about me, but then I started exposing myself, gradually, slowly, over time. I started being part of those global events as a participant first, but then I gained confidence. I sharpened my English skills, and then I became one of those prominent and stable speakers across global platforms. This is thanks to international exposure. Let me share some of the experiences of my international exposure over the time. I taught in Poland all too briefly, and I remember while teaching to Polish students, I learned different characteristics of European students. Polish students were more liberal thinking, sociable, outspoken, enthusiastic, and above all, dedicated. And it was really challenging to someone like me who comes from Central Asia to teach European students at first hand. But then, I accepted the challenge. I asked you a question at the very start. Are you willing to embrace new challenges and opportunities? Remember, behind every challenge comes an opportunity. If you're able to embrace the challenge, there is the prize, there is the benefit, there is the harvest waiting for you behind that challenge. Then I went to China. I was there for about 7 years. I taught across different cities, multiple institutions, and I learned general characteristics of Chinese students. They are reserved, introverted, timid, less spoken, and shy. Now teaching in Europe and then teaching in the Far East, they are completely different experiences. I taught to completely different students with completely different characteristics. And then I was able to turn around the situation by making those less eloquent, less enthusiastic, less passionate students very different. Take a look. Those are English major students from Wuhan Bioengineering Institute, the English school department. They didn't like English at all at first, but I was able to turn around the situation by, instilling a spark of curiosity and passion and enthusiasm in all of those students. Okay, now what did international exposure give me specifically? I was able to understand the individuality of every student better, both culturally and linguistically. I was able to build up my confidence in my English skills as an international teacher. I was able to share and enrich my teaching experiences with fellow foreign teachers. And the highlight, the cream of the crop, I was able to collect lots of international accolades down the road. I was awarded the Best TESOL Teacher Award in China at one of the top 5 language schools. And then the international awards kept coming in. Universal Leadership Award, the Best Teacher Trainer of the Year 2022, Best Global Educator 2022, and on Sunday, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam International Education Excellence Award, Teacher of the Year 2022 Award. And I was on Amazon recently, So all those international accolades came in just because of international exposure. Okay, now let's move on to the second principle. If you want to become an external teacher, you should have a passion for contribution. I'm sure you must be familiar with all those global celebrities. And here are some of those platforms that I constantly contribute. You can see on top English Without Borders from Tajikistan, SR Teaching and Learning, Azerbaijan, Educast, Egypt, 21st DigiSkills, Nigeria, Mentometer, India, Africa, ELTA, European Knowledge and Development based in Istanbul, Turkey, Educasia World, India, Educational Webinar Jam, Saudi Arabia. They are just, I'm just scratching the surface, but there are some other platforms that I'm constantly contributing to. This is because of my passion for contribution. Here you could see some of the posters from all those webinars and sessions that I was part of across the platforms. And here comes a short video clip from Malala Yousafzai at the United Nations. She made a fantastic speech. Take a listen.
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world.
Indeed, I'm not about to elaborate on the essence, the philosophy behind her quote, but I'm just here to show you that this young little girl from Pakistan had a big passion, had an undying passion for contribution, for which she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and she is the youngest ever Nobel Peace Prize laureate. And here comes another quote from one of my favorite motivational speakers, Denzel Washington. He says, do not just aspire to make a living, aspire to make a difference. This is a problem with some of those English teachers, that they're constantly bothered by the paycheck they receive. Like I referred earlier, English teaching job is not well paid, especially for non-native English speakers. But like I've shown, there are some ways of turning around the situation. And if you constantly, focus on making a difference in your students' lives, ultimately, you are making a difference in terms of your career. You're growing professionally just because you're making a difference in your students' lives. It means you are improving personally and professionally. And the paycheck shouldn't be your ultimate goal of why you are being a teacher. Sometimes I ask fellow teachers, why are you a teacher? I receive some strange responses. I heard even some people say, I'm a teacher because I can't do other job. I'm a teacher because that's the only job I can do. You know, there are strange answers, but I hope your answer will change after, you know, scrutinizing this quote, that your job is to make a difference in your students' lives. And if you're able to make a difference, you are on the path to become extraordinary. Here is a good example. You can see a lady on top. She is Barbara. She's actually a Slovenian lady who settled in Mexico, and those are her Mexican students. Barbara approached me through Flipgrid. You can, maybe you are aware of what Flipgrid is. It's kind of a platform where you could share your videos and you could exchange video replies. Barbara wanted to raise an awareness of Central Asia and Uzbekistan in Mexico among her Mexican students. And she approached me. I accepted her offer happily, and I was part of the cross-cultural project. You know, this is absolutely free of charge. I had a lot of fun, and they learned about Uzbekistan. I learned more about Mexico. This is the way how we initiated a cross-cultural project, you know, on a person-to-person level. We really didn't need any organization from Uzbekistan and Mexico to unite us. We initiated the project totally on a person-to-person basis, which you can do as well. It all depends on your passion for contribution. Here are some of the flags of those countries that I, you know, actively collaborate with: U.S., Canada, UK, Mexico, South Korea, Israel, Puerto Rico, Spain. So, international collaboration with fellow English language teachers, joint projects with international students and teachers, free Sunday English clubs, free coaching, free partnership with media, free English ECAs. You know, this is all part of having passion for contribution, and this separates you from the rest of the chasing pack. And in 2018, I was invited to Suzhou. It is known as the Venus of the Orient, and it's a beautiful city. I was there to promote the awareness about Central Asian culture, specifically Uzbekistan, to general Chinese community. So this is also part of being, you know, having passion for contribution. Okay, now over to the third part, which is competitive content. What makes an ordinary teacher extraordinary? Definitely a competitive content. Take a look. I divided into two parts: competitive courseware and cutting-edge technology. You know, in order to teach a competitive lesson, a teacher should have some kind of teaching aids, or in the best case scenario, a cutting-edge technology. And early in my teaching career, I wasn't aware of what technology was and how to integrate technology into my classes, because I was taught in a basic, rudimentary way back at home. Prior to my course in Poland, I was largely relying on the standard black and white textbooks and whatever those books had to offer. I was for the very first time that I communicated and interacted with smartboard. You know, smartboard could still be a luxury in larger parts of the world, but I'm talking about the year 2014 in Poland. Behind my back, you can see, looks like a pretty basic item, like a whiteboard, but that's not a whiteboard. That's a smartboard connected to the computer, and it's very interactive board, which was a real eye-opener to me in 2014. And if you go to different countries now and you say, do you know about smartboard? You know, they could still look at you with a wide eye open. You know, they would say, what's that? Like, have you used a smartboard? Not really. So I'm talking about a cutting-edge technology. And if you don't use cutting-edge technology, you know, it would be very hard for you to level up professionally. And speaking of, you know, smartboard, I'm referring to urban facilities. But how about those rural areas which lack educational infrastructure, educational facilities, which are almost non-existent? Perhaps there are some schoolmasters, employers, or association leaders. I have a question, a critical question for you. How could you teach a lesson, an excellent lesson, without the best technology at hand? This is $1 million question, which is still quite critical. I was talking about technology, which is just one side of the coin. But competitiveness of the content is also related to the books which you use in your classes, because you can't only teach through the technology, through PPTs, but you have to have some staple textbook in your classes. Obviously, while teaching in China, I wasn't satisfied with the books given to me, and neither were my Chinese students. So I had to come up with a backup plan. So what I did was I tried to, transfer the knowledge, the information from the books in a presentable, informative, entertaining, colorful way into the PPT. And I developed from scratch the entire courseware. You could see IELTS listening, all those IELTS courses and general English courses, spoken English course that I taught in China. So I had to come up with my own resource. So what I did is I tried to create something competitive, something that is able to cater for the needs and demands of my students. Okay, before I move on to the fourth principle, I'd like to ask you a question. You could see all those ELT celebrities here. Think of a creative teacher that you had in your life and put it in the chat box. It could be a primary school teacher, your current teacher, your university teacher, anybody you know. And it doesn't have to be a teacher, like your teacher, maybe somebody else's teacher that you are fond of, that you are familiar with. So think of a creative teacher that you had in your life, or somebody says mom, right? Maria Montessori. Yeah, I'm familiar. Maria Montessori. Okay. Anybody else? Ramzia. Okay, thank you. How about the Facebook? Are we able to track the responses on Facebook? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's wait for more responses. I promise it's going to be engaging. Gulia Kamilovna, right, my primary school teacher. Wonderful. Yes, let's put more names. Let's engage a bit. Let's get to know each other. Let's share some information. Munawwar Zaripova, my sister. Nice. Yes. Please put more responses. My sister says, okay. Right. Now let's keep going. Over to the fourth principle, create or recreate. So what do I mean by that? Let me elaborate on that. But before that, I like to bring upon a quote from Albert Einstein. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Do you agree? Say yes or no. Imagination is more important than knowledge. You agree? Yes or no? Yes, yes. Okay, if you agree, that means the knowledge that you're about to transmit and impart to your students is not as important as sparking curiosity and igniting enthusiasm in your students. I hope you got the gist of my message. So your primary job is not there to pass on the knowledge from the book, but there to be a facilitator, to be a guide, to be a curator, to be, to be a helper, to be a motivator, to be an inspirer. And this is your primary job, is being a teacher. Okay, every time I try to carry out some exciting projects in China, in Uzbekistan, I conducted 3 ECAs in China, Uzbekistan. I'll be showing in the coming slides. I'm sure most of you must know what potluck is. It's actually a North American culture where everybody brings something to the table and then later it is shared across among each other. So what I did is I first introduced potluck culture to my Chinese students, but then I recreated a whole host of new events around potluck. So first it was potluck, then pizza potluck, which was mainly around pizza culture, then reunion potluck. At the end of the year, I united all of my Chinese students in the reunion potluck. Here you could see the pictures from those events. So first it is the potluck itself, then pizza potluck. Students brought only pizza. We had a pizza party. And then it was a reunion potluck. So, if you're able to create something, then you are able to recreate. You can add a touch of originality, a touch of difference by recreating a whole host of new events. I believe creativity is teachers' most powerful weapon. Do you agree? Put yes or no in the chat box. Creativity is teachers' most powerful weapon. Yes or no? Sure, says Marwa. Yes, says Mavluda. Okay, Mehriz says yes. Okay, I'm not able to see what's going on on Facebook. I hope people are engaging on Facebook as well. Yes, says Mohammed. Marwa says, yeah, sure. Okay, someone says good evening on Facebook. Okay, good evening anyway. So yeah, let's carry on. Indeed, our creativity is teachers' most powerful weapon, and it is my most powerful weapon that I rely my entire teaching around. You can teach the same class countless times as long as you're imaginative. Every time you can, modify something, you can alter, you can add something, you can keep adding on, you can reflect, and this is how you can improve professionally, And if you want to become a creative teacher, I suggest you to watch my webinar videos, which are available on my YouTube channel. I have a whole webinar dedicated to creativity on Saudi Arabia's platform, on Bangladesh's platform, and others. So let's carry on. I was like I said, I was quite an ordinary teacher back then in Uzbekistan because I didn't have to be creative. I depended largely on those textbooks, but everything changed radically, just because I went to Poland to do my CELTA course. And here are some of those pictures from a beautiful Krakow city and British Council where I did my CELTA course. This was a turning point, a major milestone in my teaching career, after which I started thinking outside the box, really. I didn't think outside the box before going to Poland, and I thank Poland and CELTA course that transformed me into a total different individual and personality and professional. Coffee clutch. I looked up the dictionary and I came across this expression, coffee clutch. Originally comes from German. Coffee is coffee and clutch is gossip. So it's like gossiping over a cup of coffee. But I tried to build from scratch again the entire ECA project around coffee clutch. I designed a project, invite my students to the nearby coffee shop, and I designed a lot of activities around coffee culture. And my students were able to witness, firsthand how to brew coffee through coffee beans. And there was, a barista and a coffee shop owner who were really accommodating and helpful in showing a masterclass and in displaying, showcasing, demonstrating how to brew coffee. And students, to Chinese people, they are not fond of coffee because they are tea-loving nation. Tea comes from China, right? Tea originates from China, so they love tea. But because of that particular, outdoor activity, my students fell in love with coffee. So I was not there to, to make them fall for coffee, but I was there to introduce a global culture. This is what you can do as a teacher. It's not just teaching grammar. It's not just teaching words, vocabulary, idiomatic phrases, but teaching English is, it's like an ocean. You could bring the world to your class. And here are some of the posters from my project, Pizza Mania. It was one of a blast event in the history of Webb International English School in Nanchang. The entire event was around pizza. There were two competitive teams, Amazing Pizza versus Pizza Genius. And then Summer Star Reunion Potluck. You know, I love creating and recreating. So this is the pictures from Pizza Mania. You could see a cramped room is filled with the students. There were about like 60, 70 students. Normally, this is a class for 20 students, but there were about 70 people in that cramped room. Now, they still remember that particular event, which was a blast. Then I came back to Uzbekistan. I started organizing masterclass sessions in Samarkand, Tashkent. And in Tashkent, you could see me everywhere, not inside the class, you know, at the museum, teaching English at the museum, teaching English on one of the busiest, bustling streets, Broadway in Tashkent, Japanese Garden, bowling center, everywhere, you just name it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're approaching the finale. We're now in Principle 5, plan the details. But before that, let me bring forth a quote from John Wooden, an American basketball coach. He said, "It is the little details that are vital, little things that make big things happen." And indeed, it is so much relatable to the context of teaching lessons. So when you go to the class, you know, next time you may take a look at the arrangement of the chairs and desks. And there are multiple ways of arranging and rearranging your settings. And my preferred arrangement is crescent shape. You will see in the coming pictures, ensuring the presence of illustration at every class for better visual effect. So before walking into the class, ask yourself, am I going to show anything visual? Am I going to put up some illustrations, some pictures, you know, some posters, some flashcards? Or am I just going to talk, which could be very boring, you know? And it's against the Pareto principle, 20 versus 80, you know, 20%. The teacher has to be doing the talking. But if you're just going to, if you don't have illustration to talk, then obviously you have to do the talk, which could be less effective. Anticipating potential pitfalls. So what are the problems that may arise down the path? You know, there could be some of your students got trapped in the traffic jam, or you know, at the start of your class, you're about to play a video from YouTube, but then there's a power cut, you know? So are you ready for all those pitfalls, potential pitfalls and emergencies? Yeah, you should expect emergencies and identify the challenges. So you are about to teach, you know, a very difficult topic. Let's say cross-cultural experience. And some of your students may not be aware of different culture. So there is a sensitive topic that may arise some cultural differences. So you should be able to identify what are the challenges if I'm going to teach the same class to the same batch, because I have different level students sitting in the class. Some are really, you know, broad, sharp ones, and some are really at the foot of the class. So how to mediate and how to balance the class. So there are so many questions you should ask yourself before going to the class, and those are the details. Like I said, this is one of my favorite arrangement. This is a crescent shape. I was teaching in Tashkent at one of the top language schools. And this is in my hometown. This is another arrangement which I designed myself. It's called quartet, where you put 4 students into multiple competitive groups. The entire lesson is competition and collaboration based lesson, where the students will collaborate and compete against other batches of students within their mini groups. So this is another total different seating arrangement. So it's up to you, whatever you choose, whatever aligns with your teaching style. It's impossible to be perfect, but at least you can try to perfect whatever you do. There's a very nice quote from Vince Lombardi. He says, we cannot, attain perfection, but when we chase perfection, we'll be able to catch excellence. And this is our ultimate goal. We can't be perfect, but what we can do is we can improve. We can improve on the way to perfection. And later on, I'll show my 3-minute video from one of my master classes where I tried to pay attention to the tiniest details, where I'll be sharing towards the end of the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we arrived at the 6th principle. We're coming to close. Extension of going the extra mile. So what do I mean by that? Extending activities will lead to a better student engagement in your classes. Plus, extension helps for better comprehension. Let me put it into a visual. Imagine you are about to teach a lesson about some English festivals, specifically Halloween. And then you are just showing the pictures of what Halloween is all about. You have some cut-up sleeves. You have some handouts. But what about bringing the pumpkin, the real cut-out pumpkin, as a part of a regalia, so that your students would, they could be tactile. They would love to learn something by touching. I'm sure bringing one pumpkin to your lesson would make a big difference, just because you will be able to create a real life scenario in your classroom. And this is what, one of your primary teaching objectives is all about. It's not just transmitting the knowledge, but trying to facilitate the positive learning atmosphere. And this is what I meant by extension and going the extra mile. If you go the extra mile, which means if you make a special effort to make your class wonderful, then you will go the extra mile. You will try to incorporate some regalia, some real life objects, some visuals, some interesting, perhaps you could invite even people, some celebrity to your class if it has something to do with that particular lesson, to make it more, impactful. And that takes going the extra mile from the teacher. While teaching in China, for the Chinese English teachers, they had to always rely on the textbooks. But for the foreigners, that was a real challenge. I had to depend on myself, on my creativity. I had to, step out of my comfort zone and go beyond the textbooks, go the extra mile to bring the world to my Chinese students. And that's why the foreigners are invited to China. A lot of people ask me how to get to China, how to teach in China. Well, partially I can answer at this point. If you aim to teach in China, my best tip is you should go there to be a creative teacher who is willing to go the extra mile. If you're just going there to teach from the textbooks, then you will run the risk of losing your job in the first month alone. And there were lots of such cases in China. But I survived in China for 7 years, and I was awarded the best, among the best. So that speaks a lot for itself. Okay, more examples of going the extra mile. Let's say you are teaching a class on social networking sites to your students, like Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, etc. And you may extend the context of your topic by incorporating additional, materials, either online or paperback, rather than just depending on the textbook. Yeah, every time I had to go the extra mile, I taught the part of the class on sports in the classroom, but then I decided to teach the second half at the bowling center, the second half at the Japanese garden, the second half at the amusement park, the second half as a walking tour in the newly built Tashkent city and other landmark places of interest. This is all, this all takes going the extra mile from the teacher. Okay, here is a quiz for everybody. What is teaching for you? I'll give you options. You can just put it in the chat box, the letters, okay? A, main source of income. B, part-time job. C, self-development. D, full-time job. E, a chance to meet up with new people. F, hobby. Please put your responses in the chat box. Only letters, okay? For the convenience of tracking your responses, please put it only letters. Letters, all of them. C, okay, C. Right, okay. All right. I have another reply, says Marfa. D. Okay. C. Yeah, let's have a little bit engagement, mixing with other mentalities. Right. Okay, the answers keep coming in. E, D. Farzona says D on Facebook. Luckily, I can see it. Okay, Saburov says self-development. Farzona says C. Fatahia says C. Okay, let's have more engagement. Come on. C, right. C, self-development. I love it. Okay, by the way, there are no right or wrong responses, okay? It's totally free of choice. So based on your, sure, Raihona, you can choose 3, 4, it doesn't matter. Yeah, as long as it suits you. F, says Rukhshona. CD, okay. Fernando says, my passion. Right, okay, Fernando. Right, cool. Now let's carry on. Thank you very much for your interaction and engagement. And over to the finale. The last principle is, if teaching is hobby for you, that can make you an extraordinary teacher. Let me explain why. There's a quote from Mark Anthony. He said, if you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life, right or wrong. Put it in the chat box, right or wrong. If you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. Marva says, sure. Okay, sure. 110% right, Fernando. Yes, absolutely. Hanan. Fatahia says, sure. Okay, sure. Raihona says, sure, right. Okay, yes. I'm glad you are on the same page with me. Ladies and gentlemen, when you love it, you know, when you love it, it comes easy. You know, you don't have to work. It's like a hobby, you know. And this is a conventional wisdom. You know, it doesn't need any evidence. Teaching can be fun, entertainment, enjoyment, even a getaway from your social, private, you know, problems and all those toxic things that are going around you. It could be an ideal getaway. Like imagine an island, a fascinating locality where you are alone across, you know, you're surrounded by a turquoise, crystal clear waters. There are palm trees around. It's just, you know, a splendid nature. This is an idyllic getaway. And teaching could be one of those getaways if you love it, you know, and you don't have to exert yourself when you really love it. So one of the best things that I enjoy in my life is being a teacher, just because I love it. I have loved it for the past 10+ years. And above all, teaching is in my DNA. My mother is a teacher. Her father is a teacher. My great-grandfather is a teacher. My grandmother is a teacher. So it runs in the family. You know, I'm not a surprise teacher. So this is like there's a genealogical evidence that why I love teacher. You may have asked your students about what their hobby is, and I'm sure hobbies too may change over time. But hey, over 10+ years, teaching has been my hobby, and it still remains as it is. It's a hobby, you know, and that's why I love it. And that's why it comes easy. And if you remember at the start of my presentation during English Without Borders conference in Tajikistan, I showed a poster saying teaching is effortless if you love it. If you don't love it, teaching could be a heart attack. Teaching could be a headache. Teaching could be a challenge, a problem, all those negative connotations. But when you love it, it will be all the positive things in the world. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now I invite you to watch my masterclass video where you will be able to see all those principles that I walked you through throughout my entire presentation. Have fun and enjoy, and I'll get back to you very soon. Hello guys, and today I'm offering local students in Samarkand to experience a fantastic, innovative masterclass.
Hello everybody, I'm Delora. I'm a student at school. I'm an 8th grader, but my English is much better than my classmates because I have been attending an English speaking class by Mr. Feruz.
Hey guys, I've been learning English for many years, but I never felt any progress in my English. Ever since I started attending Mr. Feruz's classes, I felt more confidence about my speaking and listening. What was the location of the restaurant in which they have met? Yeah, that's perfect!
So we can do something bad and the bad will come back.
One more time, I'm going to repeat the question. So, what is the best way to travel? And today, we are offering the students, the local students, the latest cutting-edge innovative teaching methodology, and that's why we are gathering all the best students from across Samarkand for Masterclass 3.
Thank you, Mr. Feruz. I hope we can have more classes in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Feruz. Now I love you.
Okay, did you like the video? Please put it in the chat box. Let me see your responses. Very nice. Yeah. Okay. Very much. Yes. Kindly share on your Facebook. It's actually on YouTube. You can go to my YouTube channel, and that video is available on my YouTube channel. Yes, yes, amazing, says Farzana. Abdulkhalik Saburov says yes. Zinatmo says great. Perfect. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I'm here to make you love English and love teaching. And this is why I'm enjoying every second of this presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, now let's quickly recap of today's presentation, 7 practical principles based upon my humble global expertise, right? Those principles are based on my expertise. international exposure, passion for contribution, competitive content, create or recreate, plan the details, extension, go the extra mile. And last but not least, teaching is hobby. Now, share your takeaways from the webinar in the chat box. We'll have a couple of minutes, okay? I think I'm on time. And then I'll take your questions. Please put in the chat box your takeaways. Did you learn anything in today's webinar or presentation? Please put it in the chat box. So let me see how much you learned. Okay, Munawwar Zaripova says you are a good moderator. Thank you. Great presentation, says Nasiba Mirpochoyeva. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right. So share your takeaways. What did you learn? Was there anything worth learning, like a takeaway? Remember earlier, I showed you lots of certificates and I said, I'm not proud of the number of the certificates, but I'm really proud of things and insights I learned from all those virtual events. So what did you learn? Wonderful presentation. Okay. Thank you for, showering me with lots of kudos, but I want to make sure you learned something. How to be a real teacher from the heart. Yes, Riham Hilal, thank you. The real message of the true teacher. Being creative is important to untap your potential. Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Plan the details. Right. Hala says creativity. We have to be creative teachers. Make from something boring, exciting thing. Right. Amazing. Okay. We need to think outside the box. Right, Fernando? You're making a point. Excellent. Exposure, vlogging, CPD, cross-culture exposure, creativity, introducing global culture. Yes, Mara, you're right. Always you're sharp and super active. Okay. Flexibility. Yes, Hala, flexibility of the teacher as a facilitator has to be quite flexible, easygoing, move around the class. Do not be a statue, a fixed, nail on the wall, but be a movable object, right? Move around. Be easygoing, flexible, dynamic, energetic. Show your enthusiasm. Show that you too love what you're teaching, and only then your students will love it. You can't say, okay, everybody, listen, this is the most interesting content I'm about to teach, but you don't show the emotion, the feeling. And obviously you're not able to ignite your students' spark in their eyes. Make a touch of difference. You're full of energy in teaching. Yes, obviously. Thank you. Okay, great. So thank you for your engagement. I really love it. Though I wasn't able, to track what was going on Facebook. I'll try to keep track of that after the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go on to the Q&A, I'd like to show my professional contacts. There were a couple of people who were curious about watching my videos. You can watch my other videos too on my YouTube channel. The same picture all across the same social networking sites to make it easily, approachable and easily found. I use the same picture. So on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you can find me. And here is my quote before I go on to wrap up my session. Benjamin Franklin said, "Tell me, and I forget. Teach me, and I remember. Involve me, and I learn." The entire concept and philosophy of teaching is all about involving your students. This is why you are an extraordinary teacher. Thank you. And now I'm happy to take your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Feruz. So I'm sure like everybody enjoyed your presentation, got really deep insights, and thank you for sharing your experience as well as expertise. So we have a number of questions here, so let's go and let me read them to you. So Fernando is asking the first question. Are my classes student-centered? Do my students understand the instructions and get engaged in an easy way? Is my class meaningful? Are my students able to identify? So let me scroll it
What is the
here.
question?
Yes, I think he's just kind of posting the questions, and what would be your responses to these questions?
Let me check in the chat box.
Mhm.
Okay. But it's more like a comment. I don't see the real question.
So do I
Okay,
think
in your opinion, what are 3 qualities an
Mhm.
external teacher must have, and most important, what are the 3 characteristics which they should avoid? Okay, that's a nice question. I think I already answered to the first part of the question. Like, in my opinion, what are the 3 qualities an external teacher must have? I already listed down 7 of them, and I don't think I would go on adding extra qualities because those are sufficient enough, because I had to filter, I had to reflect, I have to select, sort out, classify, and finally make the final 7. But I'll try to answer the other, the second part. What are the 3 characteristics which they should avoid? That's a nice question. The teacher should avoid being a friend with a student. You know what I mean? The other day, I was watching a video clip by Anna Hasper. Anna Hasper is one of those prominent ELT professionals, and she too mentioned the same thing. She said, do not be a friend to your student, but be friendly. Those are totally different things. You could be nice, gentleman, gentlemanly, friendly. You could be polite, but you don't have to cross the personal boundaries and become close to your student. That's when there could be some misunderstanding and miscommunication occur, because you are, after all, a teacher. I heard some teachers going into conflict with their students. One of the reasons why I enjoy a greater rapport with my students is just because I try to, keep them at bay. I know the perfect balance in terms of the relationship. I know not to get too close and not to get away too far. So there is a perfect distance and balance that you have to maintain with your students in terms of relationship. Relationship is fundamental, because if you don't have a good relationship with your students, then they're not going to listen to you. You're not going to have fun with your students, just because relationship is at the epicenter, at the heart of all that goes on in your class. That's number 1. And number 2, I think the teacher should, shouldn't, the teacher shouldn't rely on the textbooks always. This is partly what I reiterated during my presentation, that most of the times what we see is the teachers ask me, can you recommend me some books? Can you recommend some resources? Can you recommend some readily available, ready-made stuff? I say, why not you create? Why not you create your own stuff? It is so easy. It just takes, a couple of hours to sit, to, focus, blend, mix, merge, combine, and come up with your version like I showed during my presentation. So the second thing is, do not always rely on the textbooks. Go beyond the textbooks, because after all, you're not just passing on the knowledge, grammar, vocabulary, but you are more like cultivating global citizens in your students who are able to walk out of your class and easily communicate in English in that society. If you're able to do so, you are successful in terms of being an extraordinary teacher. And number 3, I think a teacher should avoid being stagnant. You know what I mean? You should always be in pursuit of knowledge and CPD. And this is what I'm telling from the bottom of my heart, because I'm someone who constantly seeks CPD. Whenever there's a conference, there's a online, offline event, I always expose myself, because I know I can get some insights, I can get some takeaways, I can learn, I can polish, sharpen, grow professionally. So my last point is, a teacher shouldn't be stagnant. They should be, always in search of knowledge, in search of know-how, in search of new insights that they could incorporate into their classes. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Feruz. Next question comes from Fernando. He's asking, what are some pitfalls that teachers need to face when they become extraordinary teachers? What can they do about this?
Could you say it again? I'm sorry.
What are some pitfalls that teachers need to face when they become extraordinary teachers? What can they do about this?
What are the pitfalls they should avoid when they become extraordinary?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, it is hard to judge whether you have achieved a certain level of excellence. You should always, involuntarily, maybe inside within yourself, you should compare yourself to the teachers around you, and you will see your true worth as a teacher. You know what I'm saying? When you compare yourself to teachers who are teaching well, perhaps you will learn where your standing is in that chart, whether you are at the top or somewhere in the middle or at the bottom. This is what I did in China, because I used to teach in top-notch school alongside a high caliber professionals from all those native English speaking countries. And every time, within myself, I compared myself. Okay, this is Chris from New Zealand. What are his weapons? What are his strengths? What is he so good at? Can I emulate him? Can I learn something? Can I also improve on that front? And always I asked myself these questions. So this is how you can avoid avoid all those pitfalls by constantly comparing yourself. You have to, like it or not, we are in the world where competition always exists. For the progress, there has to be a competition. For the progress, there has to be a competition. Even in Brazil's flag, Fernando knows it well, there are words, ordem e progresso, which means order and progress. But the final word is progress. So those are two fundamental words. Progress is a key word. If there's no competition, there's no progress. Everybody would be the same. There's no room for improvement because everybody is complacent about their comfort zone, about their status quo. So what extraordinary teacher has to avoid is being complacent. Oh, I have reached the level of excellence, and that's it. That's like the best I can achieve. That's the best version of myself, and I don't need any further CPD or room for improvement. That would be the recipe for a disaster. That would be the start of a pitfall, I would say. So you should never be complacent. You should never be satisfied. Whatever I have achieved so far, I put behind my back. I said, okay, Feruz, that's your past. Now look forward. There are more things up for grabs. There are more accolades and achievements that you can get hold of. So go forward. And I can also bring upon one of the motivational speakers quote, Steve Jobs. He says, stay hungry, stay foolish. I love this quote. You have to stay hungry for better achievements, for more achievements. And this is what exactly I do. Never be complacent. That's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, and I guess we come to the final question. So Marva, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Oh, she says, unmute me.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Marwa.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for this wonderful webinar. I just have a comment and a question as usual. For the comment, I've always had that respect for people who add something to life around us, people who can change others for better. And some of the quotes that I've always, found that I believed in, strongly believed in, and those are ones of the takeaways from joining webinars and CPD programs and conferences and so on. Okay, the first one is love what you teach, but love who you teach more. The second one is the most rewarding things is to teach others what they need to learn and know. The third one, Aristotle says, teaching is the highest form of understanding. Number four, we learn best in moments of enjoyment. So these are 4 quotes I really believe in, and I wanted to share with you here. Okay, the question is, Dr. Feruz, what's your short advice for someone who does teaching as a job? He hates teaching and he doesn't feel that he is doing something of value. What's a short quote or advice to tell him? Thank you.
Oh, that's a thought-provoking question, as usual, from Marwa. Going back to my last principle, teaching is a hobby, and I also saw some very nice quote from Gulnora about hobby. She said, we don't normally put extra effort for hobby, but however, teaching requires a lot of effort to upgrade, refresh, develop. She's right. She's right in a sense that any kind of work requires an effort. When I'm saying teaching is effortless, it doesn't mean that teaching will come to your room and you become a professional teacher. No, when I say teaching is effortless, it means it'll come easy, even when you make an effort. Even when you make an effort, it feels like it is your stuff. It feels like this is something you were born to. This is what I mean by teaching is effortless. This is like a philosophy. And I hope you'll be able to better scrutinize and profoundly understand the hidden message in that quote, that indeed it is effortless. But going back to your question, for someone who takes teaching job as not as a hobby, but is unsure if she or he is creating value or doing something worthwhile, you could, give your best in the first place. You could give your best. Giving best means going the extra mile. Like I've shown through lots of pictures that I have truly gone the extra mile by taking my students to the outdoor, to the real world, and incorporate the real world with my classroom so that my students would be able to easily apply things they learned from my classes. And coming back to this point, you have to give your best shot, go the extra mile, and see if your students love what you are doing, love your efforts and contribution. And once you see that, in their eyes, in their thank you notes, in their, I don't know, maybe gifts. In China, my Chinese students used to give me lots of gifts. China was a great place because I used to give my all. And in China, the teachers who give their all are mostly, pampered with lots of gifts, both by the parents of the students and the students. I don't know about the other countries and culture, but in China, if the student gives you a gift, that's a token of appreciation of your hard work. That's a token of appreciation of your effort. So this is how I knew that I was creating a value in my students' lives. And then I went the extra mile further and further, not just because of the gifts, but just because I realized that, everything that I was doing in the class was worthwhile of appreciation, was worthwhile of, kudos and praise and gratefulness. And this is how I realized, okay, now I should continue creating more and more value in my students' lives. You know, I wrapped up my entire presentation a while ago saying, if you want to become an extraordinary teacher, the whole concept of teaching is being, you know, a facilitator and involve your students. And I'm just, you know, recasting, you know, I am referring back to that earlier statement that if you feel like you're able to create a value in your students' lives, if you're able to make a difference, like Denzel Washington said, then that's when this job is for you. And you can truly consider yourself an extraordinary teacher. So create value, make a difference, make a positive difference in your students' lives, and keep involving your students in your classes. And that's when you will definitely become a legendary teacher, more than extraordinary. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, like, you know, we can stay longer, and then, like, you know, the questions will be coming over and over. And so just a couple of questions left here, if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, we can
Absolutely.
go over
Go
to
ahead.
them, but briefly, yeah. So Gulnora is asking, can one succeed in teaching and get recognition just by being a hard worker? Or you think that one also needs to be ambitious to achieve greater results and get an international and global recognition?
Excellent question, Gulnora. Thank you very much. I'll try to be short and sweet. My first principle was international exposure. If you feel like you are comfortable in your comfort zone in Dushanbe, somewhere in Tajikistan, with your students, with your circle of colleagues, then just, you know, leave and enjoy your life, enjoy your professional life. But if you have, you know, more ambitions of slipping out of the comfort zone and exposing yourself to in a national ELT community and achieving something global, achieving global recognition, then go for it. So the choice is behind you. I can't really say that you have to do this or that. I'm just leaving you with two choices. One is, if you want to become a local teacher, then just go for it. But if you challenge yourself by, you know, setting high standards, then go for global recognition. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And last question comes from Fernando. He's asking, how important is the coordination and institution in the process of forming extraordinary teachers?
I would answer like this. You know, most of the times in all those institutions that I worked with or in, I wasn't quite satisfied with the status quo and everything within the internal mechanism of the institution. So what I did was I tried to seek for alternative options, like going the extra mile outside the institution, not just always depend on what the institution can offer you, but trying to create, you know, your own path of success for your own self. So in my case, I'm more like a self-made person. I can't really, you know, I can't really credit any institution or university who helped me in becoming who I am today. It's more of you know, self-study, and it's more of a personal work that I accomplished over the course of time. So my short answer is, it doesn't depend on where you work. You work whether at Harvard University or you work in Brazil or in Dushanbe, it really doesn't matter. It depends on your, you know, personality, your goals, your ambitions, your character. The character, there are core qualities: perseverance, commitment, dedication. You know, you're not afraid of accepting, embracing challenges in the face of all those hardships. You know that you're going to face some criticism, some naysayers, some toxic people, but you stay committed to the course of action and to your goal all along, from start till end. And these makes you stand out. And this separates you from the chasing pack. So I would say your character also makes a difference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, on this positive note and the good vibes that you shared with your presentation among the English Without Borders community. So thank you so much, Feruz, for an amazing webinar. And it's not only me, it's just, you know, lots of other attendees and also active participants. They share their comments. So good job. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that most of today's viewers, they would like to attend, you know, more webinars conducted by you, where you are sharing some insightful, practical tips for making teaching creative, for making teaching beneficial, and for making teaching close to the real world.
Thank you very much for attending my session, and thank you for allocating your precious time from your hectic schedule or busy life. I appreciate the time and attention and effort and input and your engagement in the chat box. Sadly, I wasn't able to, you know, keep a track of what was going on exactly on Facebook, but I was able to keep a track of the chats on Zoom. But I'll be able to check back on Facebook after the presentation. Thank you very much, and I'm always approachable. You can easily find me across all social accounts on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, you just name it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, dear all, for your active participation. Yeah, stay tuned on English Without Borders Network, and see you soon. Bye-bye. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.